Welcome to the Women of Distance podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Kramer. These are the stories of motivated women chasing big dreams in the distance running world. You'll hear from women who are crushing it on the trails, the track, and the road. These are not just the stories of women's results at the top of the sport, but the full story of how she got there, the challenges, failures, successes, lessons, and life between the miles. Women of Distance is proudly supported by Open Fuel, sports nutrition to fuel your adventure. Check out their products and their mission at openfuel.co and use code WOD for 20% off your order every time. You can also visit the Women of Distance Substack to read more behind the scenes happenings, including how I'm using Open Fuel in my own training. Women of Distance is also supported by our good friends and fellow trail runners at Summit Roasters. Roasted fresh in my hometown, you can support the podcast by visiting summit-roasters.com and using code WOD15 for 15% off every order. You can find all of these links and codes in the show notes, and know that we really appreciate you supporting those supporting us. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy. Okay, I am hanging out with Shelby Houlihan, trail runner, I think is how I'm going to introduce you. Shelby, how are you doing?
I love that. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me. I love trail runner. Let's keep that.
I am really excited to have this conversation. I think you are just off of your second trail race. You have done 2 trail races the past 2 consecutive weekends. We talked really quick after you did the first one, and you immediately said, I loved it so much, I'm doing another one. You ran and won both of those trail races. I am really excited to talk about that. I'm excited to talk about what you're doing here on trail and the past year that you have had coming back into the sport. I think we have a lot to talk about. I think you have a lot of story, and I'm just interested to dive into your story. So I think to do that, we have to talk about your whole story, and we have to go back in time and like where your origin story begins. Where did athletics first enter your life?
Yeah, gosh, it's so long ago now.
Right?
I would say, yeah, I know. I kind of have been around running my whole life. So I guess when I first got introduced to it, I started doing cross country, like little 1 mile cross country races when I was 5. And kind of from that point on, like I was a very energetic child. I needed an outlet, So, and my mom was a professional marathon runner as well, so she was running her whole life. I grew up around the sport just by watching her run, or me and my siblings would get in the car with my dad on every Sunday and follow my mom around on her long runs, giving her water or nutrition, or just like exchanging clothes, whatever it was. And I grew up in Sioux City, Iowa, so it's cold there, especially in the winter. And she's like, changing out layers, putting Vaseline on her face to keep from getting frostbite. And but yeah, I think just kind of being surrounded by the sport, watching her run, watching her love for it, I wanted to do it as well. And so yeah, it kind of started when I was 5 doing those 1 mile cross country races. And it kind of evolved from there, honestly. Like I was, through high school started doing runs with her. But yeah, she was a big catalyst in getting me into the sport.
So talk about those really early five-year-old 1 mile runs. Yeah.
Yeah, they were fun.
Was that like through school? Was it through the community? How did you get that start? Where was the like opportunity?
I believe it was through the community. I don't think it was through school. It was just kind of like, family fun run type of things. Yeah, it was like it's called like Riverside Park. It was in this little park area. We had a little 1 mile cross country race, and my younger sister would also do it with me. And she probably was, I guess, maybe we didn't start at the same time, because she would have been 3. She's 2 years younger, so maybe she started a year or 2 after that. But I don't know. I just always thought it was very fun. I got to do like what my mom was doing, and I had watched her do it, so it was kind of fun to do it as well. I also was born with a blood disease called spherocytosis. So up until I was 8, I was like always kind of struggling with being fatigued. And so like some of those races didn't always go very well because my red blood cells count were like really low and I was anemic. And so it was kind of a touch and go for a while there, but I always like loved that I could go like just see how, like, I don't know, just go race people, you know. In elementary school you're just like trying to be the fastest kid in the school. Like I was that kid that I was trying to race everybody. And so it was
Well,
fun to be
so
able to do that.
that's one of my next questions is like, were you immediately good at it, or did you have a sense that like this was something you had a talent for, or did that come later?
I think a little bit of both. I did, like I said, I did grow up uh trying to race everybody, always trying to like play tag, and no one wanted to play tag with me. But like, you know, just like trying to I felt like I was good. I was also kind of like growing up around running, I was told that I was good at it as well. So that kind of like reinforced that self belief. And like I said, kind of growing up with that blood disease, I didn't find a like consistent success right away. Just kind of struggling with that anemia. I was in the hospital every few months getting blood transfusions until I was 8, until I finally had my spleen and gallbladder taken out. Um, like just I guess a little bit of backstory. Basically, what that blood disease is like your spleen normally will get rid of old or like defected blood cells. All of my red blood cells are sphere shaped instead of like more oval shaped, and so it's kind of registering all of them as being defective. So it's just getting rid of all your
Mm.
red blood cells. So that was kind of what I was struggling with until I was 8 and I had my spleen out, and then it basically I've been kind of fine ever since. But yeah, the I think running at first with that was really difficult, just being anemic so often. But yeah, like I said, like I always kind of felt like I was good at it. I was being told that I was good at it, and when I was feeling good and had energy, I was like winning, you know. So
You could
it
see
was,
it. Yeah.
yeah, you could see it.
So, where did this start to become more of a like formal sport for you as opposed to just some community races, but you actually began to train and kind of organize this for yourself?
I would say it probably like 7th and 8th grade. I started doing track in 7th grade, less cross country, but I was too shy to go out in 6th grade. I was like too scared. So I finally worked up the courage in 7th grade to go out, and I also around that time started working with a personal coach on the side as well. So that's kind of when it started getting more serious. Um, and I was starting to do like more USATF, like junior national type of races, and like racing other competition outside of Iowa. So that was kind of when it started getting a little bit more serious, but it was still like very fun at the same time.
Yeah. What did you find that you were loving about it, especially on the track? I would imagine that this is a place you really had a skill set. You mentioned you were not so much into cross country. What were you loving about it as you were starting to really invest yourself in it?
I think mostly the like you're kind of getting out of it what you're putting into it, and I liked that control, honestly. Like I am, and it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes you work really hard and it doesn't, you know, click, but I liked the idea that I got to determine how good I could be just by how hard I worked. And so I think the curiosity of just seeing what that looked like and how far I could take myself was really appealing, and I really like just kind of liked that, and I thought that was fun.
So let's talk about that then in high school. How did your high school career evolve, and what opportunities did that set you up for after high school going into college?
Yeah, high school kind of it's just kind of continued, you know, like I again I was working with a personal coach on the side, and I was definitely training more like a sprinter, just kind of doing more power stuff, lift stuff, or like the longest interval I would probably run was like maybe 400 meters. It was definitely more sprint based, but then I also had my mom doing her run, so I would hop in her long run and do like an 8 or 9 mile long run. So I got a little bit of both, but yeah, I'd say high school, I started really finding success pretty early. I don't remember what I placed at state in my freshman year, but it was also like during the golden age of Iowa high school running. Like there were so many good people there. So I didn't really end up winning until probably more my senior year, just because the competition was so good. Like we had like a handful of girls running sub 2:10 and 800 in high school, which was kind of crazy at the time. Now it's probably a little more normalized, but yeah, I think it was good though because it taught me how to lose and to like really stay hungry of like, okay, well, how can I get better? Like it taught me how to like lose and work on myself to figure out how I could keep chipping away, which I think is a really like important skill to learn, because if you're always winning and kind of crushing everything, you never really like get to learn that or like have those same opportunities. I think a lot of the time you learn the most by those like harder moments of losing or not performing to the best of your ability. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I think overall it was a really great high school career, and I ended up running 207 in the 800 and like 426 in the 15, which then kind of helped me go on to college and get a scholarship to go to college. And I ended up going to Arizona State for that decision. But
So that was part of my question. What made you decide on Arizona State, especially coming from Iowa? I can imagine, like, I came from Maryland and I went to U of A in Tucson, just south from you, partly because of that huge change in climate that I was
yes,
speaking. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. Elaborate for yourself. I'm sure there were multiple factors. What made you decide on ASU?
that was a huge factor.
Yeah.
I can relate to you on that one. I was so sick of the cold. Like I think it's horrible to try to like be a distance runner in the Midwest. Like some people love that. I had a hard time with the cold. So I
Hmm.
knew I wanted to go somewhere warm. I looked at, let's see, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, and then my last visit was Arizona State. And I loved the weather, first of all, but also my older sister at the time, she was running professionally for Brooks, and she was training up in Flagstaff, which was only 2 hours away from Phoenix. Uh, and so, like, that was a bit of a factor. And I liked how easy it was. Like, if my parents needed to come out and visit, it was like a 2 hour flight to Phoenix. And I don't know, like, it weirdly felt like home, even though it was so different from home. Like I felt at home when I visited, and I felt like I could be happy in Phoenix even if like I was hurt or running wasn't working out or something like that. Like I just felt like I would be happy there. So that was also a big factor.
In what ways do you feel like it felt like home? Like, was it the team and the coach and the support, or was it really like the environment and the location and all of those other like close to home familiar factors that you could relate to?
I think a little bit of both. Like one, obviously my sister's close by, so that's nice. Um, I liked the coach and the team. Like Louis Quintana was the coach there at the time when I visited, and he, I really like. I think the following year, so I think it would have been 2008. I really wanted to try to make the Olympic trials in the 800. I thought that would be so cool. And most of the coaches were kind of like, yeah, like I don't know, like maybe the next Olympic trials will be a little bit better of a shot. And Willie was like, yeah, let's do it, let's try. And so I liked that, just like screw it, like let's go find out and see if we can make it happen. That resonated with me a lot, and he just had like a really good energy. Um, And then on top of that, like I think, like you said, the environment was a huge pull. I don't know why. I'm a sun person, and I didn't know
Yeah.
that living in Iowa until I got here, and I was like, I love this. This is great. I can see the sun all the time. It's great weather, like, and so it was just like kind of it felt like a happy place, I guess.
Hmm. Talk a little bit about from the running perspective and maybe also personal perspective too, that transition from high school to college. I feel like sometimes the training atmosphere changes, the workload changes, and that can be hard. It sounds like you were doing a lot with a private coach in high school though too. So what was that transition like for you? And maybe I'll ask the second part of my question after that.
Yeah, it honestly wasn't a hard transition, I guess. I think the biggest I was really lucky that I've kind of had coaches throughout my career really want the best for like my longevity of my
Hmm.
career. And so like I think it's really easy to get caught up in trying to get results right away or quickly at sometimes the expense of like the athlete's health or like injuries. I went to ASU, and at the time in high school I was maybe running like 20 miles a week, like not a lot. Like I said, I was training more like a sprinter. Um and so my first year I was only running like 30, like 25 to 30 miles a week as a
Okay.
freshman. And then, my sophomore year, I was then bumped up to 40, and then junior year is 50. So it was really, my coach, it ended up not being Louis. They split the program right before I got there, and it ended up being Ryan Cole as my coach. And so, but he was great in just like really staying patient. Um, I will say there were hard parts of the transition. Just I was good in Iowa, and then going to cross country at a D1 level and like being okay with getting like 40th place was hard. It's like
Hmm.
that's not where I want to be. I want to be up competing. Um, and I think he had a really good perspective for me at the time on that, where he was saying, you know, everyone ahead of you is like sophomores, juniors, seniors, like they're putting in like more time, more miles, like you're going to get there. You're a freshman and you're not there yet. So maybe we stay a little more patient. Cause yeah, like I was hearing, oh, like senior, like juniors and seniors are running like 80 miles a week. I'm doing 30. Maybe I should run more, you know, like that's where your mind goes. And yeah, he did a good job of talking me down. Is like, that's not where we're at right now. At some point, your junior, senior year, that's where we want to be. But let's take a step back, and how about you just compete with the other freshmen and like try to be the best freshman, um, and see how many of them that you can beat. And I think changing that perspective and having a different goal was really good for me because it allowed me to like be okay with staying patient while also still feeling like I'm being competitive. And so that was my new goal freshman year, is just trying to be the best freshman in every race.
Sounds like really quality coaching, like not just trying to get the most out of you athletically, especially if you're coming in with this Olympic trials goal, but like to really be looking out for you in a long-term sense in that way and holding you back, protecting you from yourself a little bit, maybe at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe along with that, talk about just what you feel like you were learning and growing in yourself at the same time that you were developing your athletic career. You're also on your own for the first time and learning how to be an adult in the world. What was that aspect of your life like at that time?
It was it was funny, I'd say. Yeah, like you said, it's like your first time kind of being an adult, and so I was learning a lot. One funny like story, I guess, I realized for the first time my freshman year, we're probably like 6 months into the school year at this point. I found out that you're supposed to wash your sheets like every couple weeks. I did not know that. I had never seen my mom do it. Like, I guess she did it when we were at school. And so I never saw her wash my sheets. I never thought to do that. And so I'm 6 months in. I have not washed my sheets one time. And I
Wow.
was like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I should probably do that. So it's like little things like that you just like don't think about. And like
Hmm.
I didn't really know how to cook. I didn't know what it looked like to eat healthy. My freshman year, I had to go see a nutritionist because I had put on like 10 pounds, and my goal was to only eat fast food once a day because I at that point was eating it like 2 to 3 times a day. And so yeah, there was a bit of a learning curve, I'd say. But I think overall it was like good stuff to learn and figure out on my own. I like was very painfully shy growing up and in high school, and so I think learning how to speak for myself or like ask for things. I remember going back for like winter break, and I went to the store and actually talked to someone behind the counter, and my sister was like, "Oh my god, like that's crazy!" Like, so I think
Conversing with a stranger.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I never
Small
really
talk.
had to. My mom's very talkative, and she kind of did the talking for me, and so that's where I was comfortable. Um, yeah, so I think a lot of things were learned that freshman year. The biggest, I think, was just kind of like growing into myself and finding more and more confidence in who I was just as an individual rather than like just a sibling part of the family.
Hmm. Talk about your athletic career at ASU and what you feel like you set yourself up for throughout that career and then post collegiately. What opportunities started to present themselves?
Yeah, I yeah, I think that my college career ended up being pretty successful. It was just like I said, like we just stayed really, really patient and tried to work on things. I'll just do a little bit more year after year and keep building, but like you never really need to like reinvent the wheel here. You just need to stay healthy. So that was the biggest thing. And I stayed healthy my entire 4 years. Um, but yeah, I think it was like I said, with kind of changing that perspective. My sophomore year was kind of similar. I was like, now I'm going to try to compete against the sophomores, and maybe I'll get like some juniors in there too. And I think that change of perspective was really helpful to continue being competitive year after year while also being okay with like maybe I'm not winning where I want to be. I was still really doing well, and that set me up for my junior year. I ended up winning a national title in the 1500, and I think I was like a 12-time All-American or something like that. I ended up also placing eighth in cross country that year as well. Um, so things were starting to click. Like I, I think it was the patience was finally paying off, and that was really exciting. And um, yeah, my senior year was somewhat similar. I'd say my junior year was maybe a tiny bit better, just because I got second in the 15 my senior year in at nationals, but and like I think ninth in cross country. But it did overall set me up to be able to get a pro contract out of college, which was awesome.
So you've really been on this path of like being conservative and setting yourself up for the long game over time. Did you sort of have that vision for yourself and know all along that you wanted to make a professional career out of this after college?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it were up to me, I probably would have been like, no, I'm gonna run 80 miles a week my freshman. Like I would have tried to rush it. And I was lucky that I had a lot of people around me in my corner trying to look out for me and hold me back. But I'd say ever since I was little, like ever since I kind of started running when I was 5, this is what I wanted to do. I saw my mom be a professional runner, and like I don't know, I just like felt like that was my path. Um, and so this was always the plan, I guess, was to try to run professionally and try to be one of the best, try to make it to the Olympics, hopefully break records. And I was definitely in my mind that was the long game. And
Hmm.
yeah, like I said, I had a lot of good people in my corner helping me do that and holding me back at the right times.
I feel like this is another point that can be a difficult period of time for people making that transition from college to professional career. Talk a little bit about the opportunities you had available to you and how you made the choices that you did.
Yeah, the I think going pro was a little, I didn't realize it was like a bit different from in high school. Like you get recruited in high school to go to like to colleges, and like people are reaching out to you. It for a pro, you have to kind of go and make your own opportunities. Like I had to go reach out to people and see if they were interested in me. Um, so I ended up kind of narrowing it down to a few different options. I could stay in Phoenix, and my senior year, the program had kind of uh, come back together. So Louis was my coach my last year, and so I could stay in Phoenix and train with Louis, or I was talking to Brooks, and I could join the Brooks Beast up in Seattle, or I could join Bowerman with Jerry. And yeah, I had emailed Jerry and was like, hey, I don't know if you've heard of me or anything, but like maybe like it'd be really cool like if I could maybe join this group. And so I ended up having a really great conversation with him. I went out for a visit there after NCAA's and really enjoyed the team. They were super friendly. So I kind of, process of elimination, I guess I decided not to stay in Phoenix because I felt like I had learned how to be a really great collegiate athlete, but I didn't know what it looked like to be a pro. And I wanted
Mhm.
to learn from pros how to be a pro. So it kind of narrowed it down to Brooks and Bowerman. And there was just something I think that was like, if I don't go with Jerry and Bowerman, like I feel like I might always wonder, like, what if I would have gone with them? So once I realized that, the decision was kind of made for me. I was like, I don't want to ever wonder. And I didn't feel like that, I guess, the other way around. Like no shade at all to the other group. It's just like that's just how it felt. Um, and yeah, so that was kind of how I made that decision. And I ended up moving to Oregon that fall and joining Bowerman Track Club.
So then how did this transition and this team, this coach, this support, all of that, how did that impact your life? And I mean that in kind of both senses of on the run and off the run.
It was hugely transformational, I think. Like I packed up all my stuff, went to Oregon, and I think Jerry, it was just like honestly the perfect group for me at the time coming out of college. Um, there was like Shalane was on the team. Emily Infeld I think she had just won a medal, and like in the 10K, and Evan Jager was there. I don't know. There's just like so many people that I had looked up to, or I was like, I get to learn how to be a pro from like the best pros, like this is going to be, so it was very exciting. And Jerry is awesome. He is so passionate about the sport, and I'm a very excitable person as well. So it's like I go to practice and it's workout day, and I'm just like, hell yeah, it's workout time. I'm so excited to just like die today. And that's kind of like the energy that he brings as well. So we gelled really well. Um, but I think for the first time, it just like felt like I was part of a group that like we were all kind of there trying to do the same thing, and just work our butts off to see how good we could be. And I really liked being a part of something like that. I think that was really cool and unique to be a part of. And my first year there, I just got my butt kicked every workout and I loved it. I don't know. I enjoy getting done with workouts feeling like I could not have worked harder than that. And that was every workout. And that was the first time that I had experienced that. So I felt like I was really going to like see what my potential was with this group.
It feels like over time you have really learned how to put yourself in that position and how to grow and thrive in that position as you talk about coming into your high school career, coming into your college career, and now being comfortable in that position of learning and growing your way from the bottom upward. You keep mentioning the sentence, learning how to be a pro. Elaborate on that a little bit for listeners, for myself. What do you mean by that? What aspects go into learning how to be a professional runner?
Yeah, I think like having it kind of be the only focus. I think if I would have stayed in Phoenix, I had friends on the team in Phoenix, and I probably would have, gotten to some shenanigans that wouldn't be conducive to running as fast as I wanted to. And so I think what that means is like how to eat well, eat like good food. Shalane was about to come out with her first cookbook, so she actually was a like huge in helping me figure out how to cook and like learning how to eat well. Like I said, coming from my goal of trying to eat fast food only once a day, I wasn't the best at that. And so that was super helpful. Learning how to recover, learning how to just like work hard or how to manage your energies, going to the gym, getting lifts in, foam rolling, like just like doing all of the little things that I hadn't really necessarily seen as much growing up, like up until that point. So it was cool to watch all of, I guess, the sacrifices made and all the little, like, attention to detail on the little things. That was something that I really needed to learn because I just wasn't really doing those things. And so it was cool to learn that from them.
I feel like it's maybe doing a disservice to sort of skate over some aspects of your career, but I also feel like we could talk for 3 hours if I'm not careful. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to let's talk about the 2016 Olympics. You qualified, represented the US at the Olympics in the 5,000. If I'm correct, you were the highest placing American in the 5,000 that year at the Olympics. Talk a little bit about what having that Olympic experience and maybe sort of getting a taste and a hunger for that level of success, that level of competition meant to you and how that changed things for you.
Yeah, that was such a cool year. Um, Gosh, there's like so many different aspects of it too. Like I didn't really expect to make the Olympic team that first year out. Like that was my first year as a pro, first full year. And I had really never run a 5K. Like I did it in college like a couple hours after the 15, but it wasn't anything that I was like gearing up for.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, I would say it was kind of like I wanted to be there. I didn't know that I didn't think I would make the team just because I was 23 and I felt like my prime's going to be at the next Olympics, like maybe like that's the Olympics that I'm going to be, you know, hopefully there for. Um but I just kept getting my butt kicked every day and luckily doing a good job at recovering because that can go either way. If you're like always digging to the well, it can lead to injury. I luckily was able to stay healthy through that, and put together like really good training, and recover well. But I ended up like a few months out of the trials, like just writing on my mirror, like I will be an Olympian in all capital letters. Just I wanted to convince myself that this was going to be a possibility. And so I put it somewhere where I would see it every day. I could say it every day. And I was just repeating that multiple times a day in practice on easy runs, just trying to convince myself that this is something that I'm capable of doing. And by the time that rolled around, I actually believed it. And the trials were happening. I was the last event. I have like 8 or 9 teammates also racing, and I had to watch they all made the team. And so I was like, I can't be the only one to not make this team. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking to have to sit back and watch everyone make it before me. But I think that also was giving me so much confidence in like, if they can do it, I can do it because I've been training with them every day. And yeah, I lined up at the trials and I just like almost didn't even feel that nervous. It was just like, I'm ready to go do this. I know that I can do this. And I was able to play second. And, like I said, like this had been a dream since I was about 5. Like I wanted to run pro and I wanted to be Olympian. So when I crossed the line in second place, it was just like kind of overcome with emotions that I actually did like a lifelong goal. Like that was such a cool moment. It's still one of my favorite moments of my career. Um, and then, but yeah, then getting to actually represent and go, it was a bit nerve wracking, I'd say, because the competition, like their PRs were like 40 seconds faster than mine. So it was hard to line up on that line feeling like, yeah, I'm going to be competitive, I think at the time I was just like happy that I made the team. And obviously I wanted to do the best that I could. And I did, but I wouldn't say I was like, oh, I'm for sure going to go try and medal. Like I think it was just I was happy to be there. I was happy to have made the team, and that was a huge goal for me for my first year.
I feel like this has to be just really affirming to your confidence and to your potential, maybe that you originally weren't even thinking this was your Olympics necessarily, that the next one was going to be your strong one. And then not only to make the team, but then to go to the Olympics and make the final and to do well in the final. Coming out of that games, what were your feelings, emotions, plans even coming out of that and knowing that you had runway ahead of you to continue to grow, develop, and improve?
Mostly it just felt exciting because I
Yeah.
had already like I had crossed off such a huge life goal my first year as a pro. So it was just like, what more could I do? Like there's so many possibilities and I still feel like there's so much potential. Like that I know I can run faster. I know I can do better. So there's more things that I could improve on. At the time when I made the Olympic team, I was still only running like 60 miles a week. Jerry did a really good job. We didn't really change my overall mileage just because I had moved to a different state. I was doing higher intensity than I'd ever done before. I was doing more volume than I had ever done before in terms of like workouts. And so there were so many variables changing that we decided let's just keep the mileage the same to like do something similar. Um, and so like I think that helped keep me healthy, but I just because of that, like that I could still run 70 miles a week and then I could run 80 miles a week. Like there is so much room for improvement. So I think coming off of that first year, making the Olympic team, running 60 miles a week, it just like felt really exciting and there's just so much more room for potential.
This is another, I really don't want to fast forward, but we have to, across a few years of after that Olympics, in between the Olympics and the next trials, you had a ton of success. You set the 5,000 American record, you set the 1,500 American record, you were part of the 4x15 world record relay. And then we're coming up to 2020 and COVID and the pandemic, and the trials didn't happen when they were supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about maybe, again, really fast forwarding here over a very successful development process. But I think even coming into 2020 with so much anticipation and excitement, and you'd clearly been really growing, really improving since that Olympic Games. Where did you envision yourself, maybe even as the pandemic was unfolding and we didn't quite know yet what was going to happen? Where did you envision yourself going in 2020 with the Olympics coming up?
Yeah, I fully felt like I could make that Olympic team, and I really thought I was going to be able to medal. 2019, 2018 and 2019 were probably my best years up until that point. Um, I in 2019 I got 4th at Worlds, so I was like right there. I set the American record in that race. It was such a gutting race because I knew I was in like 354 shape, which historically would have won, I think, every world championship or Olympic final. And so I was like, I'm going to win, or if I don't win, I will medal. and then to have to come away with neither one of those things. And like, I still was able to get the record, but it
Fourth is a
just,
hard spot.
it was hard. And it
Yeah.
was really, but I felt like it was also good because it gave me so much fire going into 2020, where I was like, that was the first time that I think I had lined up at a world championships, really believing like I will win or medal and having that confidence. So that was just huge to have, like, line up with that confidence. And then for it to not happen, it was just like almost like, let's add some fuel to the fire here. 2020 is going to be the year and this is going to happen. And then, yeah, I was in such great shape, especially coming off that 2019 season. And for it to get postponed was hard because I just felt like I had so much momentum and everything was clicking. And then, to have it being postponed, and then it was just like, oh, well, now I have to like be even more patient in this process. And I took the foot off the gas pedal a little bit and was a little more lax, wasn't so rigorous about doing all the little things just because, we didn't really have any races, but we still ended up doing some races. We put on our own races, and I was still able to run fast that summer. I ended up breaking the 5K American record again, and running like 14:23. So I think it was just validation that, yes, I'm on the right track. I'm continuing to get better, continuing to get stronger. And so 2021 is going to, like, it'll happen. And if anything, I'll be 2 more years, like from 2019, I'll be 2 more years stronger and more fit going into 2020. So it'll just give me more time to get more fit and line up feeling confident.
So 2021, the US trials were pushed back to 2021 with the Olympics coming in 2021 because of the pandemic. The 2020 Olympics held in 2021.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, I think the story broke just shortly before the trials, but I think that this was something you had been dealing with for a little while prior to that. So talk a little bit about the beginning of your year in 2021.
Yeah, that was it was a tough year, and it started out really tough. January, I think 15th, I got an email that said that I had a positive drug test, and that I was provisionally suspended. And I am a clean athlete. I've never cheated. I've never tried to do anything shady. I don't believe in those things. I don't believe there's a gray area. And so for me, when I read that, I was just like, what? How did I get a positive test? I have no idea what happened. And it just, yeah, it was really dark, I'd say, because there's a part of me that is like, they'll do an investigation, they're going to figure it out, they'll see that I'm a clean athlete, like I don't have anything to hide. And so this is going to it's going to solve itself. They're not going to like ban a clean athlete, but then there's also that little voice in your head where it's like, what if they do? So I was really trying to trust the process throughout that whole year, and hope that, the truth would win and I would be able to race the trials. But it was just a really, really difficult year. And it ended up taking right up until like right before the trials. There's a lot of different things, like details involved, but essentially, like, we ended up having to forego the first trial because we couldn't get them to respond to anything or give us any updates. The trials was coming up. The Olympic trials were coming up. So we were just trying to, like, we got to get this solved so I can race. And so we ended up like going straight to the Court of Arbitration to get the Athlete Integrity Unit, the AIU, who was in charge of the test. Sorry, I'm kind of like skipping over some things. But yeah, we were trying to get them to do something because they were just kind of holding me in this provisionally suspended state for 5 months at this point with no updates, no communication. So it just felt like, oh, they're just trying to like run the clock out so that I can't race the trials. So we went to court of arbitration, got them to actually do something. They finally charged me. And so then we scheduled a hearing to try to prove that I was innocent. What we ended up finding, we felt like it was from a meal that I had eaten the night before the test. This was like the only link that we had. We tried to test vitamins, supplements, anything that we could think of. Everything was coming back negative. I took a pregnancy test to see if that had an influence on that positive test. It was negative. So it was just like you're trying to search in the dark for answers when you like just don't know what happened and everything's coming back negative, and it's like I don't know like where we're supposed to go from here. And the meal that I had eaten the night before was our only like resemblance of a link to something that could have happened. So that's what we went with, and we tried to do our best to prove that. Um, Took it to the hearing, and they felt like it's possible that that happened, but we didn't prove probability enough. And so they ended up banning me for 4 years. And that was just, yeah, that was definitely the hardest and darkest period that I've had in my life so far. And um, that was, yeah, it was just really hard to continue training to try to be ready for the trials, hoping that I get to run them, even though I don't know if I will be. I ended up getting so fit, like funny enough, through that entire process because it I don't know, I just ended up throwing myself into training because it felt like this is like the only thing that I can control right now is I can just work hard, and I worked harder than I've ever worked like before, to the point that I had a stress reaction in my foot. My meniscus had a tear in it. I was about to tear my plantar, but like it was just like I can't stop, otherwise it just feels like it's all gonna like come crashing down. And yeah, I ended up getting super fit leading up to that. I ended up doing a time trial and running 3:57, and just like felt like I was so ready for the trials if I was able to compete. And then to find out that I was banned, um, yeah, it was very, very difficult.
I want to make sure to mention here there is a documentary that FlowTrack put out at the beginning of last year as you were returning to competition. It's called Shelby Houlihan Rising. And it really, I won't pretend to understand the system. I think most listeners can't pretend to understand the system. I know there are people listening who do understand it. Um, but I think in that documentary, there is a good bit of detail that really breaks down the process of how this unfolded for you, the process of the hearings that you were going through, and all of that. So that will be linked in the show notes for anyone who's interested in going and learning what that process looked like from your perspective at that time. Um, I think it's also important to touch on, like, this was a 4-year ban. What were what were your thoughts in the initial months coming into that? And like, 4 years is a long time, so I hate to stand here and ask, what were you doing with yourself for 4 years? But that is the question I want to ask of like,
Mm-hmm.
what was the process of accepting that, maybe hearing and accepting reactions to that and the impact that it had on your relationships and your job and your life and all that came with it?
Yeah, I feel like I could talk for hours about all of the,
I'm sure.
variables that had come with that. I think, yeah, it was hard, to I don't even know that that really encompasses everything that it was. But I think up until that point, I think I had like running was kind of my home. That was where I felt like the most me, and this is like where I felt confident in myself and who I was as a person. I just like I had been watering the Shelby runner identity plant my entire life,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that's really all that I had. Um, and so when that got kind of just ripped away overnight, it was a huge identity crisis. And I think it was hard to accept. And honestly, I don't even know if I've still like fully accepted that that's the situation. It's hard to I was in a very like depressive state for a long time. Because it was like, how did I spend my entire life working, being patient, doing things like this? I did everything the right way. For what? Like, just to have it all ripped away and like that I like saying that I did something that I didn't do. And so I think that was a really difficult thing to like accept. Um, it just felt like what was that all for? I just and I don't know. Was really depressed. I was suicidal because I just like didn't see a way through that. It just like felt so dark. I didn't know how to move forward. My identity was just like ripped away. And I didn't know who I was without this. Um, and it was the first couple months actually. I have a 1971 VW bus, and I had been wanting to take it out on a long road trip for a while. I had it for, I think I bought it in 2019. Um, and so I ended up uh, taking it on a 6,000-mile road trip over those next few months, mostly because it sounded fun, and I felt like I needed to do something that actually sounded fun in the middle of all of this like darkness. I like just couldn't go and sit at home because I don't think that would have gone very well, honestly. And so it was just like a way for me to somewhat process and move forward and feel like I could move forward. Um, and yeah, I think those few months in the bus were, if I couldn't be racing, I'm so glad that I did that. Like that was where I wanted to be if
Mm-hmm.
you know in that moment, I guess. But
What was it like going through all of this in the public eye and having opinions and thoughts and words, whether they were directly at you or about you, about the situation? Like, how are you or were you seeing any of that external commentary, and how are you processing and dealing with that? That's a whole nother element to the situation for what it was already.
yeah, it was, yeah, like you said, it was hard in itself to go through something like that, to have everything you worked for ripped away, discredited, and then having to also do it in a public eye and have everyone's opinions about it be voiced. That was also super difficult. I ended up on that road trip. I just gave my all my social media passwords and stuff to my sister, and I was like, I'm gonna delete everything. I can't do this. Like I don't need all of the noise as well. So she kind of was monitoring things, or deleting comments if they needed to be, or sent like texting me some of the nice messages that people were sending, just to like lift my spirits a little bit. Because when I before it broke, I was just like, everyone's gonna think I cheated, and like it's gonna be horrible. I think I had a lot more support than I thought I would have, and I think that's largely, I hope, just based on how I've held myself up until that point, and like my character, I guess. But I had a lot more support than I thought that I would. A lot of positive messages, which honestly were like kind of life saving at the time. Um, but I think it was, yeah, really hard to, at some point I did go back to my social media and it was really hard to look at some of those comments being said because everyone feels more powerful when they're behind a keyboard, and
Hmm.
it's hard to have to always be exposed to that. I still get messages like that, or comments on my posts or things like that. So it's just like, I don't know. I have gotten to a point, I think, and I've worked with a sports psychologist as well, and she was so helpful in helping me like manage everything. But I think I got to a point where I know who I am and I am confident in who I am. I know I did not do this, and I know that I can't convince people that I didn't. Like, I don't have any control over whether or not people are going to believe me. And so all I can do is be myself, speak my truth, and if people resonate with that, great, and if they don't, then that's not anything that I can control. And so I think kind of letting go of like needing to change people's minds has been a bit freeing. And it's still hard. It's still hard to read some of those comments and messages because I just like it feels so unfair. And I think that's still the hardest part, even today, going through this. There are still times where I just get overwhelmed and like it's just kind of depressing because whether it's trying to get into races and not being able to, or I don't have a like sponsor right now, or getting the negative comments is just like it all goes back to like I don't deserve any of this and I'm still having to go through it, and I think I'm going to have to continue dealing with this for the rest of my career, and that sucks, and it's sometimes still really hard to accept. But yeah, I don't know. I've gotten better at managing it and trying to focus on the things that are within my control, but sometimes it still does get overwhelming.
I think that's a question I had too, is that it's one thing to learn to deal with it in your own world, in your own space, but your career is not over. You have returned to the sport definitively here. It's 2026 now. You've got nearly a full year under your belt at this point, like exactly a full year under your belt at this point. Um, so you are re-entering the sport and having to sort of open that wound again, I would imagine. And I want to talk about that and your re-entry into the sport and the year that you had in 2025, both from that element of it and the reception of the community and your competitors and the the big picture, but also like for yourself, how you felt coming back into the sport, both as an athlete and as a human re-entering this space. Um, Not even sure really where to start with that. I have so many questions about the year
Yeah.
that you've had. Uh, so let's just start there, I guess. When did you have your first competition last year that you can it was indoor track, I believe,
Hmm.
at the beginning of last year?
Yeah, I am blanking on the date of it. I think it was either late January or early February. But it ended up being in Arkansas. I I picked a
Oh, that's
smaller
right.
meet,
Yeah,
like
okay.
just as a hoping to dip my toe back in a little bit, and it was more of a college meet, I'd say. Um, but like there was a lot of college teams there, and I just wanted to, yeah, rip the band-aid off in a small way, I suppose. Like up until that point, those 4 years, I kind of removed myself from like the pro running community a bit, like, and so I think the only real exposure that I was having was online, and which wasn't great at times. And so I was really, really scared to come back and put myself in a pretty vulnerable space. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to stand on the start line and just get booed. And I was trying to mentally prepare for the worst. So yeah, I think having the online presence feel so negative, and not to say that there wasn't positive, because I do feel like it was like pretty 50-50. But I was just really scared at how I was going to be received. And so that first meet was actually it it was the best case scenario. Like I didn't have a single negative thing happen. I didn't hear anything. Everyone was so excited that I was there. I raced well, even though I was so nervous. I ran fast, and people afterwards were coming up to me and just like saying the kindest things. Like they were like so happy that I was there and that I was back. And so I think getting through the first one was so nice to like, okay, maybe it's not going to be as horrible as I think it's going to be. Um, and so I think that was a good first race to have. And then after that, it kind of continued to get easier. I didn't feel as nervous going into the next one. The next one was in Boston. I was going to race a mile. Um, and there were things that I learned, I think, going from the first one to the second one. In the first one, I walked into the indoor track and just kind of like put my head down. I like headed straight for a corner just so I didn't want eyes on me. I just was trying to like get in there undetected. I didn't want to like, I didn't want people to come up to me. I was just really, really scared. And I think reflecting on it, I was like, yeah, I didn't line up with confidence. I lined up scared. I was terrified of everything. So I think going into the second one, I need to like, you know, hold my head up high and like kind of have more confidence. And so going into Boston, I was able to like really do that a little bit better and feel like I deserve to be here. I deserve to hold space here, and like I'm here to race. And so I feel like that was better in the sense of how I approached it and how I showed up at that meet. Um, I didn't run as fast as I wanted to, but it again, like it was a very positive experience. There was really not any negativity that I heard. Um, but yeah, each race I was getting a little bit more confident at being able to handle like whatever was going to come at me.
I think that is something that I was interested to hear is like how let's maybe segment this out into athletics. Like fitness aside, coming back in at not having competed in 4 years, essentially, we sort of skated over a like beer mile world record
Yeah.
in there, and maybe
Yep.
we'll come back to that. But coming back onto a competitive stage, like what were your expectations of yourself athletically coming back to competition? Did you feel like you could athletically re-enter the sport where you left off or ahead of where you left off? Or like, what were your performance expectations for yourself?
That was hard. I
Yeah.
always have high expectations of myself. I wanted to come back right where I left off, if not better. I kind of just wanted to like come back like swinging. I wanted to make a statement. I had really high goals for myself. I was also trying to be realistic that I haven't competed at this level in 4 years and it might not be that easy. And so I I had goals, I would say high goals for myself, but I tried to have no expectations and give myself grace throughout the entire season. Because it was kind of a learning curve to come back. And so, like, I had some awesome races where I ran really fast or I, you know, did well. And then I also had races that just sucked, honestly. Like, it felt rusty. I couldn't switch gears. I was even like that during that indoor season. My third race was indoor nationals, and I was kind of scared. Like I hadn't raced tactically in since 2019. And so yeah, I think that was a learning curve to like actually have people around me. and trying to figure out how, like, where do I need to be? Like, this is just feels new again. Um, and so I was still able to meet a lot of the goals that I had for myself, and I had a really great year. But it was really difficult at times to like, yeah, it it was hard. It was harder than I thought it was going to be, both physically, mentally, emotionally. Um, yeah, I think there was a lot of times where it was also just emotionally overwhelming to come back, and I had gotten used to not having the pressure of competing and kind of like doing whatever I wanted to, and I was finally starting to have fun doing that. And so having to like sacrifice that now and go back to professional running where I need to be all in, like part of me didn't want to do that. Like I wanted to keep having fun and like living my life and doing other things. So it was a bit of a transition and trying to just find a balance in having fun but also training at this level and competing at this level. It was, yeah, it was a bit tough.
Do you feel like over the course of the year that you were able to gain traction and bust a lot of that rust off? I feel like again I'm hearing the pattern of like I'm starting here and I've got room to grow, and year 1 is maybe not the year that I flourish and am thriving, but I've got room to grow on this first year. Is that sort of how you felt in this year, or even just working through this year?
Yeah, exactly. Like it the way I was trying to look at it was like, at least I'm light years ahead of my actual first year in 2016. Like
Mhm.
I, I had a, it's almost like I'm starting over, but like not fully starting over. So I think for a first year back, I had a great year and I didn't even like fully feel like myself. And I think that'll come. I think it's just getting used to the stimulus again, getting used to racing. Um, I think each race that I had, I was starting to feel more and more like myself. Even the last one that I had at Worlds, like I still missed a move, and I like didn't have that like flip the switch gear that I usually have. And I, like I said, I do think that's going to come, and I think it's going to get easier as the time goes. So I'm very excited for this next year or the year after that, because I think it's going to continue getting better. Um, and I'm trying to look at the last 4 years as like I just kind of got some time off and got to pause the clock instead of, you know, thinking I lost those 4 years. And I never will fully know what I would have been capable of, which is hard to accept sometimes. But I'm trying to look at it in a way that, like, I got to conserve my body for 4 years, and now I get to pick up where I left off a bit. And I think I was able to do that. I think I was able to pick up where I left off, and I'm excited to see how that continues to grow.
Talk about some of the elements that are different for you or have been different for you this year, in terms of like you've said in the past, you really thrived with a team and a community and people that really were part of what made it fun for you. And that was different this year. Like what are some of those elements that just are a change and are something different in the past year?
It's, yeah, I'm still training alone. Like that was part of the
Hmm.
ban, was I had to train alone. And I think a hard part of this year is that hasn't been different.
Hmm.
And so it's, even though it is different and I am getting to compete, some of the situational aspects don't feel different. And that's been hard to have fun, because it still kind of feels the same in some ways. Um, yeah, I really crave community. I think that is a part of like just being out there with teammates in the trenches, you know, dying every workout. There's like this camaraderie that kind of gets built and respect that I really enjoy and I think is really fun. And so not having that has been really hard to, it's been hard to keep myself accountable, like to go to the gym. That being one thing. I'm not been very good about doing that. But like, I don't know, it's just being out there alone a lot of the time I'm actually out there by myself. Like my sister's coaching me, but she's down in Phoenix, and maybe I'm up in Flagstaff. So just being alone has been really difficult, and my motivation throughout the year was kind of just roller coastering, dipping, and it's honestly this fall has been probably the hardest motivation wise, which maybe wouldn't think after like having such a great successful year. You'd think maybe my motivation would be higher of like, yeah, now I'm ready to like go into this one. But I think having 4 years where the goal and drive was to make a comeback, and then I came back and I did it. And now it's kind of like, no, now what? I think that's been hard to find the motivation to keep going with the situational aspects of, I don't want to keep doing this by myself. Like, this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I have had a lot of times this year where I've contemplated just leaving the sport. I'm not having fun with it. It's been difficult. And on top of that, kind of dealing with some of those variables that I don't feel like I don't deserve it, like to not have a sponsor. I don't deserve all the negativity online and like stuff like that. It's sometimes just feels all too much where I do want to just kind of leave and not deal with it. But I think there's so many other, yeah, I don't know. I'm also very stubborn. So I have goals for myself that I'm not ready to give up on yet. So that's really what continues making me move forward. But yeah, I think that was why I kind of started doing a couple of trail races this year, because it just sounded exciting and I like that community. It's been in the back of my head for a while. And I just wanted to try something new. So yeah, I don't know.
I can imagine just the hard work and dedication, even if you love it, that it takes to compete at the level that you're competing, and to do all of that while swimming upstream against a lot of challenges is exhausting, mentally, and physically, but mentally. Um, we've got to talk about trail. Okay. So the community aspect, I can imagine, is a big driver for you here. Prior, not including your childhood, have you ever done a mass start race? Have you ever competed in an open field like this?
Yes. Not, yeah, I guess in childhood. Like, I
Yeah,
grew
but
up
not like in adulthood.
not, not really. No. Um, Maybe here and there, like community runs. Um, I, yeah, it's just been a while. Probably not consistently, no. So it's definitely been a while. I didn't really even know where to put myself. I'm like, I've never done trail. Like, do I put myself towards the front? Do I mid pack? Like, where do I don't want to stand on the start line. I think that's like kind of arrogant. Like, I probably should, just go a few rows back, because I don't actually know if I'm going to be good at this. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny.
So let's talk about this first race that you did. What, obviously we've touched on the community aspect, but what made you take that leap and actually put yourself on that start line and jump into this trail race?
Yeah, like I said, it had been something I knew, like whenever I am maybe kind of done on the track, I did want to go to trail at some point. I thought it always sounded fun. I've seen documentaries, YouTube videos of trail runners and like trail running, and there's just something about it that sounds so exciting, like just being out there in on trails in the wild, like I don't know, it's just like in nature that I liked. The community seemed cool. So it was just always something that has been intriguing to me. And then I I think, yeah, after this last year not really having fun, it was in the back of my mind. I was like, maybe I'll just try some trail races. I don't know, we'll see. So it was a possibility this year. I was looking at actually Black Canyon 50K like 6 months ago. I was like, I could do that. Like, that could be fun. I've never done 30 miles before. I think the longest I've done is 20, but like that could be cool though, to just have a new challenge. Um, So it's just been something that I've kind of been joking around, but semi-serious. And then a couple weeks ago, it was like 6 days out from the Christensen Trail Run that I was on USATF, just like renewing my membership, and then happened to stumble upon the events page. And I saw there was like some in Arizona. There was one that weekend that was 14 miles. That's what I needed for my long run. And I was like, that, I don't know, like maybe I could do that for my long run instead of like just going off and running by myself. And so I texted my sister and asked her, like, what do you think about this? Should I sign up? And she was just kind of like, I don't know, just like be careful. But if it sounds exciting to you and it sounds fun, I think just go for it and do it. And so I signed up, went and did it. It was so much fun that I ended up signing up for the one the next weekend as well. So yeah.
I have a two-part question here. The first one is like just logistically, like did you carry your own water? Did you carry gels? Like how did you prepare yourself for this trail adventure that you had never undertaken before? Did you wear
Um,
road shoes? What kind of shoes did you wear?
I I had some Nike Pegasus trail shoes from like 5 or so years ago
Okay.
that I was like, okay, I'll just like dig these out. These will probably be fine. I think I've worn these like 3 times ever. So I did have some trail shoes. I don't know if they're good or not. They were fine. Um, I, as far as like nutrition and stuff goes, I've always been someone that I'm stubborn and I don't want to train my body to rely on anything. So I've never taken gels really or nutrition or water on long runs. So I felt fairly well prepared on that end.
Okay.
I ended up taking some Gatorade, I think, at the turnaround. Um, but I didn't have a water bottle or any gels. I tried to do a little bit
Nothing at
better
all.
on this one. I had a gel in my pocket, like a little just honey gel. But that was it.
I'm
I didn't
gonna
have any water or
asterisk this
anything.
for our listeners that you going out for a 14-mile long run does not take the same amount of time that many of our listeners are thinking about for a 14-mile long
Yeah,
run.
yeah,
And trail is different too. Maybe that, like you said, that was part of the learning curve that it takes a little bit more time to do that same distance on trail.
yes, yeah. I
Okay,
don't
I
recommend
interrupted you.
doing what I'm doing, but yeah.
The other question then that I have is what I'm going to imagine you were not prepared for it, but what was your reaction to the community response to? I mean, there was a big social media. Shelby Houlihan just did her first trail race. What was that response like, and were you prepared for the trail community to get excited about this?
I wasn't, maybe naively. I don't know. Like I I I didn't think it was going to be a thing. Like I was just like, oh, I'll just go do
Yeah,
this for my long run, and that's all I had thought about.
under the radar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like I'll just go do this. And then when it kind of blew up, I was like, oh, maybe I didn't expect that at all. Um, Maybe I should have. I don't know, but yeah, and I think mixed responses a little bit. Like I think, like I said, you always have those keyboard warriors that aren't happy about anything that I do and think I'm lying and all these things. But I think for the most part, people being excited that I was trying it or there, like I think that was really fun to experience. And yeah, I think in some senses though, like this is a different community, right? So like some people like don't know who I am, which is like totally fine. I have no problem with that. It's just like when you're introducing yourself to a new community and then your name attached to a 4-year ban, people automatically like, oh, she's a cheater, without actually like maybe being curious about the story. And so I think it has in some ways been hard to, this is a community that I want to be a part of and I'm excited about, but it's also almost like I have to retell my story like over again to people that maybe don't know who I am. And so that's a little bit hard and like a little bit exhausting at times. But I think overall the bigger like vibe, I guess, has been really excitement and supportive, and that's been really fun.
I think that's a big piece of why I wanted to do this was like you are here, you are competing, you are allowed to compete, and people should have the opportunity to hear your story from you. I think that that's important. Um, eh, when I reached out to you, you had just done that first race, and then I was ready to talk to you last week, and you said, I loved it so much, I'm doing another race. I said, okay, let's talk after that because I want to hear like the progression. It's a learning curve, right? You're not just going out to run, you're learning things along the way. So you lined up last weekend for the Santan Scramble. Talk about what you learned in that first race that you applied to this race, even just like going in, standing on the start line. How are you prepared for this event?
Um, yeah, I felt a little more confident, I think, going into this one, the Santan Scramble, just because the first one actually did go well. Because I wasn't sure. I had like a bit of maybe naive arrogance when I was like, I think I could be good at this, but I don't know actually. Like
Sure. Yeah.
maybe I'd get my butt kicked, and that's totally fine. Like I don't mind getting my butt kicked at all. It's just like not really knowing where I'm going to stack up. Um, the first one, I think I definitely treated it more like I'm just going to go do a long run and try to just go run with the top, whoever's in the top. It's more so about being able to run with people. And so, but even in that, like, I think I ended up passing the guy in first at like 5 or 6 miles, and then I ran like 9 miles by myself. So I think it was just like kind of a fun learning experience though, to even though I was running by myself, it was still really fun to have like have someone behind me that is like, I don't know, just like the chase, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
um that was fun to experience. And then going into this one, I did try to take a gel, so like I was playing around with that a little bit, just because when I did take the Gatorade in the first race, I like 5 minutes later started kind of feeling a little bit better. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something to the whole nutrition thing. And so yeah, I think there's still so much to learn on that front. Like I said, I've never been someone that I usually don't take anything for workouts or runs. I know that's something I can be better at, and I think this is a great environment to learn in. Um, but I think for another thing, like in this race, I had the plan of going out again with like the top people, but those guys went out so hard. So I actually did end up running a lot of it alone again. um, but it was fun, even because the way that it's set up, like I think the 17K and the 9K, like you're kind of passing people throughout the entire race. And so it was nice to pass people and be like, I'm on your left, like, good job. I was like saying good job to everybody and like, you're doing great, nice work. And it's almost like that was giving me energy too, to like cheer other people
Mm-hmm.
on. And so I don't know, it was just like all around fun. It was, yeah, I don't know. I think there's still a lot to learn. I still don't really know how to pace myself because I don't ever feel like I'm like going to the well in the same way that I would in a track race, which I don't think I need to, but I don't know where that line is yet, you know? So like I
Yeah.
think even with the race last weekend, I think I can run a lot faster. I just don't know like what is my red line of I can run this pace for 16 miles. Um
Right.
with all the terrain and the hill, like, like I'm not sure where that's at yet, but it's really fun and exciting to like the idea of trying to figure that out.
Let alone like coming into a new format and learning the trails. This was the longest race that you had ever done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, by a lot.
Okay, but yeah, before we hit record, we had this conversation. I have to bring it up now because I appreciated hearing it. Talk about the big hills that were at the end of this race and how you approached them.
Yeah, it was like mile 8, I think, was like I think it was called the Gold Mine Hill or something like that. It was so steep, and I could see it on Strava before the race started. I was like, I think this is going to be a hard hill. And so I was mentally prepared for it. And it was even harder than I thought it was going to be. I don't like walking. Like I try cuz like I think once you like start walking it's easy to keep walking. Like
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like I'm not going to walk up this hill. I'm going to like do my best to run up this hill. I walked up that hill. That was I got like halfway up and I was like I can't do this. This is so hard. And I saw the guy in front of me. He was like maybe 50 meters in front of me and he was kind of like walking, jogging as well. And I was like, okay, I'm getting closer to him, but like, I don't know. It's just like, okay, I'm going to walk. And then I had remembered seeing like on some of the YouTube videos that I've watched of trail runners like going up walking, like I guess like more power hiking up
I was
some
going
of
to say,
these.
Shelby, we
Yeah.
call it power hiking.
Yeah,
We don't
they're not
call it
it's
walking.
not really walking. But yeah, so it's like you're using your like you're pushing force into your quads to try to like go up the trail or the mountain. And so I remembered seeing that and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try that. And oh my god, it was like so helpful. So I'm glad that I've seen that before and thought to like try that. But yeah, I think it's hard to adjust my expectations a little bit where I'm like, no, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably fine that you or like normal to power hike up some of these mountains. I just like in my mind I was like, no, I'm not going to be defeated by this. And I think I need to adjust that expectation of myself a little bit. But it was I let out a couple F bombs. Like I got to the top and I was just like I let one out. It was like that was so hard. And then after that, I think it kind of that was really the only big hill. After that, it was more rolling, which I really enjoyed. But I was also scared of going down that hill because I'm not as great going downhill as I am going up. And so it was a little scary at times. I tried to take it slow just to be careful. But yeah, it was overall just a fun experience. And I'm just excited to do something different and new.
It's really fun to hear just all of these relatable aspects that like we have all had these experiences, and it's cool to hear you having those experiences for yourself. And I think one of the things that is really cool about trail running, and I think most people in the community would agree that like you're talking about figuring out how to run this race and how to pace yourself and where is your line, but every single race that you go to, every course is so different. It's not a track that is essentially the same wherever you go with different environments. Every course is completely different. And so trying to measure yourself on one course is a whole new learning experience, a whole new learning curve on the next course. And there's just such a wide variety and so much opportunity within trail for so many different problems to be solved and things to be figured out and learned. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that sounds like I really like that aspect because yeah, you can't really like compare too much or and I think in some ways it is hard too where like I've said like I've kind of had a little bit of like naive arrogance that like I think I could be good at this but cuz like you see some of the average paces but I'm like I could so be like underestimating how hard that hill is or like like I think I can run this fast but I don't know because I've never done it and I don't like even now I've done 2 trail races but like I don't know where I would stack up against other people like I don't know it's still such a question mark but it's like very exciting to try to figure out and just the I don't know, not monotonous way. I think it's like I guess the variety I think is fun because track can be kind of it can get pretty monotonous at times and it's hard not to continually compare yourself to your old self or to other people. So this is I think fun to it's a fun way to not do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see the way that it's lighting you up just seeing you talk about it. And I think
Yeah.
that's just very cool. Um, Talk about how this fits into your plans. Like, you're not done with track. You have some indoor meets on your schedule. What does maybe the first half of 2026 look like for you, both on and off the track?
Yeah, I only have answers for the first. I
I
don't know
figured.
after that. Yeah. I'm very bad at like planning ahead. So, yeah, I think the my first race or two, I'm going to do a couple indoor races. One of them being sound running indoor. I think it's North Carolina on the East Coast. I should probably know that. But yeah, I'll do an indoor race there. I might do another one before that, either a week or two. I'm not sure yet. Um, the big goal, I think, this for the next few months is I want to do a fast 10K. I want to race the 10, and I want to just see how fast I can run a 10K. It's been another challenge in the back of my mind that I've been eyeing for a while. Just hasn't quite been. I was actually going to do one in 2021, but it just obviously I couldn't because I was provisionally suspended. So I think now I'm finally going to get the opportunity to try to race a fast 10K, and I'm excited about that. Um, and after that, I have no idea. As far as trail running goes, I I'm like already on the website like what other events are around Arizona? Like what else could I do? Um, so I don't know. I am unsure yet how it's going to fit into training. I would like to find a way for it to continue fitting in because I think it's really fun, but still trying to like scheme and find ways to do that in a good way that it's not going to like hurt myself because I'm, racing every weekend. I don't think I need to race every weekend. But yeah, it's just kind of trying to figure that out. Uh, Off the track, I over the last 4 years, I had gone back to school and I got a master's degree in sports psychology. My I want to like give back to the sport. I've always been interested in the mental side of competing, and I think that's something about like trail and ultra running that's really interesting to me as well. It's just like that mental game that you have to play with yourself.
Mhm.
Um, so I went back to school to get that master's degree. I want to help people on the mental side of competing. Um, just I think that is such a huge aspect of racing and training. So I want to help athletes on that side. And so I finally graduated this last, like in October. I'm going to take the exam and try to get certified to be a mental performance coach. And so this next year is my plan is to kind of launch the business and work with athletes in a professional way. I had been doing that this last year, just getting internship hours. And honestly, it was really fun. And I really enjoyed having something else to focus on outside of racing. I got to work with a bunch of track athletes and some other sports as well. And so it was just like, I don't know. I think when running wasn't going well, it was nice to like feel like I'm still helping people and feeling fulfilled outside of this. So I want to keep doing that as I continue competing.
It's not your entire life and your entire identity in the same way that it was before. You've got,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're still within the sport, you've got different avenues and different ways that you are pursuing life within the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been really fun. It's been different, I think. It when I line up and compete, it hasn't had the same pressure or weight. Um and I don't know. I think overall in a healthy way, I think that's better, but it's just been different. And so
Mhm.
I think it's just been something to get used to. And yeah, I don't know. I like I said, I haven't figured out if it's bad or good yet. It's just different right now.
Different.
But it has been
Mhm.
nice to, yeah, like feel like, okay, whether I crush this race or I bomb it, like it doesn't really matter. And I am doing other things that I'm interested in, and that's fun. And even if I bomb it, like or if I win it. Like, people are going to talk about it for 2 days and they're going to move on to something else, and it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. So I think having a different perspective has been probably pretty good.
Lots of change coming for you then in 2026. Lots of different experiences, new experiences, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes for you. Shelby, I have one last question that I ask of everyone who comes on the podcast, and I want to bring us to a close with this one. And that is, if you could go back and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
This is such a hard question. I think it stumped me, honestly. I had to think a lot about it, because I don't know that I would want things to change in some ways, because I am really proud of who I am right now and like today and everything that I've gone through. I think if I could give some advice though to my younger self, it would be to pursue other interests and hobbies, and like, you know, like I said, I think I did a great job of watering the identity of Shelby the runner, and I didn't really water any of my other identities. And so when that got taken away, it was absolutely crushing. I think my advice would be to water those other identities and grow in other ways in who I am as a person and other interests that I have. I think as athletes, we're always kind of like, oh yeah, like I don't know what's next. I'll figure it out at some point. But you never really know when that time's going to come, and hopefully it's on your own terms. But you don't know. And even when you are prepared for it, it's still difficult to lose that identity, that you've spent so much time doing. So I think, yeah, I think having, if I could have had that advice and been maybe watering other areas of my life, I think maybe that experience that I had gone through would have been a little bit easier. Um, and maybe overall, I would have just been a happier, healthy person. And who knows? I think that is always helpful when you're racing, to be as happy and healthy as you can be. I think the results kind of translate from that too. But yeah, I think that would probably be the best advice that I could give myself.
Clearly, a lesson you're implementing for yourself now at this
I'm trying
period of
to.
your
Yeah.
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Shelby, I have really appreciated getting to know you a little bit better. I have appreciated you sharing your story, and am really interested in sharing it and interested in seeing where your 2026 goes, and hope to see you at a trail race at some point here in the future.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. Honestly, I appreciate you having me on and just giving me an opportunity to tell my story. Yeah, it means a lot and I appreciate it.
Absolutely.